Hello and welcome to another episode of Bare Bones Wargaming, a show with no bells, no whistles, no frills, just a man, a camera, and his game. This episode, I am going to be sharing with you my top anticipated games for this year. War games, of course, naturally, for 2021. That's a fairly short list, to be honest, but still, I wanted to go ahead and give some thoughts about them, what I've seen so far, what I've been reading, and just kind of share what is coming out this year. And try to maybe do some ideas and information. Then you can go ahead and investigate yourself further if you like. Now, as I said to you guys last month, I was going to go dark for about a month. And I couldn't say at the time why, but now I can. And the reason why is what you see before you, which kind of kicks off our list here of anticipated war games for 2021. The one that kicks off our list here is, if you look up here in the top part of, oh, you can't, I gotta move it, there it is. Look up here in the top part, because this map is huge, Orange Swan, which is going to be published this year from Vento Nuovo Games. If you're familiar with Black Swan, which came out late last year, this is the companion game to it. The sister game, if you will. It's the same basic game format, with a few tweaks, of course, for the Pacific. As you can see, I've got everything set up here to start play. It is a interesting game to me. It's on the lighter side, but I'm a person who likes to have different games at different levels about the same topic, depending on how much I want to get involved in playing a particular game. So, this one here is interesting. I've been playtesting this like crazy along with a few other folks, and I have enjoyed exploring it. There are a lot of possibilities. One thing that probably should stand out right away is the fact that you can see that the continent is well represented. A lot of times in strategic Pacific theater games you have a lot on the Pacific, but not so much on Asia. But this game has plenty, as you can see, of China and India and, of course, Burma and such. So it's a very interesting game. Again, similar mechanics, got some good solo features like random drawing of reinforcements, and the engagement die roll for naval battles. So even if you get a bunch of ships in the same spot, because it's a strategic game, doesn't necessarily mean something's going to go down. It could, but it doesn't necessarily have to. So I'm very much looking forward to this. I think this will be a nice complement to some other Pacific theater games I have, for a lighter one, but still a very interesting one and challenging one and intriguing one in terms of different strategies that you can try with it. So definitely one of my very anticipated games. The Kickstarter is going to be launched later this year, not too distant future for it. So that's my number one game. Now, the other games, because I don't have a playtest copy like I do here, what I'm going to do is I am going to zoom in here on my little phone stand here on the big old map and basically try to show you some pictures here on Board Game Geek for some of these. So the next one is my most anticipated game, is, if I can keep the image to stay up long enough, is Absolute War, which is coming out from GMT Games. Absolute War is about the invasion of the Soviet Union all the way through the end of the war. Carl Paradis, I hope I'm pronouncing Carl's last name correctly. You might know his name from the No Retreat system. He is the designer on this. This is an area game. I've been reading some of the playtest comments and such on Board Game Geek, and people have been calling it an interesting system, a unique system, and that intrigues me a lot. So I'm very, very curious as to how this is going to be. It is an area game also, which I have to admit, as I've gotten older, I have been more intrigued in playing a lot more games that are area and point-to-point. I don't know if it's just the Hex and Counter games. The older I get, the less appealing they are. I'm not sure what's going on here yet, because, within a year or two I'll be 30, so, things are changing. But I've been looking forward to this ever since I P500 this, because as you guys know, there's two things I can't get enough of. I can't get enough of Pacific Theater, and I can't get enough of the Eastern Front. So definitely looking forward to the Absolute War. My understanding is it's going to be out later this summer, hopefully. But it won't be out in time for the 80th anniversary of Barbarossa on June 22nd. Pretty much. That's almost a done deal. Not entirely done, but it seems like there's a good chance that it's not going to come out at that point. So that's another one. Speaking of Eastern Front, this is a game some of you may have pledged. A game that's been being pushed back due to logistical issues around the world, and that is Race to Moscow from Phalanx Games. Race to the Rhine is a game that I picked up and I enjoyed quite a bit. And of course, again, the Eastern Front, I just can't resist. It's a very different game, and if you've been keeping up with the historiography on the Eastern Front, the historiography has really been focusing on the logistical issues of the German army, all those problems that they were having with logistics. So this game is right up that alley if you're interested in that. You don't find a whole lot of games that focus a lot on logistics, but this one certainly does. And for that reason alone, I'm curious, because it it does fill a void as far as the Eastern Front goes, because again, it's something you don't see a whole lot of games on. But if you've read anything from Stahl and Luther lately, which I just got another one, a book that actually both of them collaborated on together, of diary entries and letters from German soldiers covering a whole gamut of topics during Barbarossa, which I have yet to read. I'll get to it once I get done with my Pacific Theater kick, so to speak. But it looks very intriguing, and so does this game. So, again, another game I'm anticipating, once again on the Eastern Front, but a little bit later, is Enemy Action Kharkov, which, of course, if you know Enemy Action Ardennes, you've seen this system. John Butterfield does some of the best solo games, in my humble opinion, that exist. I did not care for Enemy Action Ardennes, but everybody sit down, hold on tight. I don't like bulge games. Dun dun dun. It just wasn't my cup of tea. It wasn't my thing. So this, though, is very much. Whoops! I want my phone. This very much is my thing. So I'm definitely looking forward to trying this. It's covering Manstein's backhand blow, from what I understand. I don't know if it does earlier scenarios, because there basically were 3 battles of Kharkov, as I recall. So I like I said, I like Butterfield. I like the system with Enemy Action Ardennes. I just don't care for the topic. This topic I like. This has me intrigued. This is coming out from Compass Games later on this year, hopefully. Another game that I have been anticipating, just got finished with Kickstarter here not too long ago, is a reprint. Let me try and bring this up a little bit bigger, because that is kind of really a tiny image. So hang on, bear with me a second while I try to pull that up, make it a little bit bigger maybe. There we go. And that is the reprint was being done by Worthington Games of Malta Besieged. Now, Malta Besieged is one that's been out of print for a while. Victory Point Games, of course, is no more. I'm sure as most of you are well aware. This game I picked up some years ago and made a trade. I had one of the Europa games on the Balkans, and I swapped that game for this one. And I've enjoyed playing it. It is the States of Siege game. I believe it's one of Steve Carey's games too, which also explains why I'm out of print. I don't know the whole ins and outs and the politics and stuff. You can look that stuff up if you want, but I know there was some creative differences, issues. I don't know how else. You can look all that up if you want on your own. Nonetheless, this is being reprinted by Worthington, Deluxe Edition, of course. It looks really good. You should check it out. I'm not sure. I would assume you could still pre-order it. I did the Kickstarter campaign as soon as I heard about it, and I'm looking forward to that because I enjoy playing that game. And definitely, Victory Point games are good games, but a component step up would definitely be appreciated. Especially, I'm looking at you, Barbarossa campaign. But my understanding is that Canvas Temple Publishing might be doing that, but I'm not sure if that's going to happen this year. I haven't really been keeping up with that one, to be completely honest about it. And down to our last two entries here. Speaking of Worthington Games, another one that I also did the Kickstarter on. Now, I know some of you who are regular watchers, you know I've been a little, what's the word, wary, I guess, about Worthington Games. It's kind of been more miss than hit for me lately, but this one on Tarawa, which that's really not showing up very well. Sorry about that. But this is Tarawa 1943, of course, about the bloody, god-awful invasion of Tarawa, which many lessons were learned and applied later. This game, I watched the video. They had a YouTube video showing the gameplay. I liked it, so I signed up for the P500 on it. I am one of those people who likes to have a couple games on a topic if I enjoy a topic enough. Tarawa is one of those topics that I definitely am intrigued by. I think because it was the first step in the whole island hopping campaign. So I do have D-Day at Tarawa, as you all know, and I enjoy that, but that is, involved. It's a little heavier. This seems like it's going to be lighter, but kind of give the same effect. So I'm looking forward to it from that perspective, because then it'll give me a lighter option whenever I feel like I want to try and get the Marines on there on Red Beach 1 and those other places with the invasion of Tarawa there in the Gilbert Islands in November of 43. So I'm also looking forward to that. I don't do a whole lot of island hopping games like that, but this one I liked. I liked the video. The video, I think, definitely helped this game a lot in terms of showing the gameplay, giving you a good idea how it plays, and making me think, you know what? Yeah, I am interested in giving this a shot as a lighter version of Tarawa. And last, but certainly not least, is a game that I have been looking forward to ever since I got the sister game. And they do have the final box art cover posted. And that is Conquest and Consequence from GMT Games. It's coming out. The sister game of Triumph and Tragedy. Now, as you all know, I really enjoy Triumph and Tragedy a lot. I made that solo method for it. It is a blast to play. Now, granted, the combat system I'm not the biggest fan of. I'm curious to see if they changed anything for Conquest and Consequence. But the thing I do like about this, and quite frankly, this is why I'm going to buy both this and I'm going to buy Orange Swan, is because Conquest and Consequence starts in 1936, just like Triumph and Tragedy, which of course is before Japan gets involved in China, before the China incident, which was July of 37. And from reading the description on GMT Game website, because I was wondering about this, because I was like, man, how are they going to manage the diplomacy system? Because one of the best things about Triumph and Tragedy, in my humble opinion, is the diplomacy system creating unique geopolitical situations. And that is one reason I absolutely love that game. But I was like, man, how are they going to do that for this? And when I was reading it over, I came across it and realized, oh shoot, you know what? You know what they're going to do? They are setting it up so the Japanese can try to negotiate with the various warlords. That's intriguing to me, because China was kind of, no offense to the Chinese, but it was kind of a mess with the whole warlord period. And, even Chiang Kai-shek, even at the beginning of the war with China, really did not have full control of things. Not even counting the communist situation with Mao. So the fact that you're going to be able to do that and maybe try to detach different warlords, that's intriguing. I also like the idea because after reading Richard Frank's Tower of Skulls, the more I read that, I learned a lot about the war with China, because I admit I've always enjoyed the Pacific Theater, mostly from the naval aspects, from the island hopping campaign and the Southwest Pacific campaign, climbing the ladder, heading up to New Guinea and the Philippines, with less attention on the China, Burma, India theater. And what I learned from that is just that, and I mean, I kind of knew this already to begin with, but just the China adventure was such a drain. So it is intriguing that you can take this game, which is very much a sandbox game, and be like, you know what? Screw this. I'm not going to invade China. I'm going to hold on to Manchuria, keep an eye on it, and maybe I'll invade the Soviet Union. Would have been a tall order. It was also an interesting thing from the Frank book about the whole Nomenhan thing. The analysis by both sides and the realization, especially for the Japanese, what went wrong there. Very interesting and intriguing. I don't know if there would have been a fix to that, by the way. If you're interested, of course, you can read the book. And if you like the Pacific Theater, you definitely should read Tower of Skulls. It's a great book. So the fact that you're going to be able to do that kind of thing, you are going to be able to attack the Soviet Union, or, you know, you could sit back and wait, and who knows, maybe even try diplomacy with some of the other colonial powers. I don't know how the whole mechanic's going to work with the diplomacy. I mean, it's intriguing, and I don't know if it would have happened, of course, if, you know, Japan had managed to make some kind of diplomatic agreements with the Netherlands, you know, over even access to oil. I mean, that's a huge game changer as far as that goes. So it's interesting. I was concerned at first about if they were going to be able to do a whole lot of geopolitical stuff, but now it seems like they will. So again, I'm going to pick up both games because I just can't get enough of the Pacific Theater, and because I think each of those games will serve a purpose as far as a different aspect, a different way of looking strategically at the Pacific Theater. Because I enjoy Across the Pacific because of the chit pull, because it allows you to pull things off like Lady Golf. It's very unpredictable at times, which of course we're talking about an expanse of the world that just, the Pacific Ocean, if I remember correctly, I read this somewhere, the Pacific Ocean covers more space than there actually is land on the Earth. I mean, that's insane. So the vastness of it, you know, comes across with those kind of things with the chip pull. Orange Swan, which you see before you here, it plays nice and quickly, but it still gives all that historical flavor to it, and it allows you to try different strategies, and you know what, if they don't work out, it's a very easy game to reboot, and you start over and you try again. So that's cool. And like I said, Conquest and Consequence is going to give the more geopolitical aspect of things, the more the sandbox, because it starts in 1936, which, again, could easily be a game changer as far as that's concerned. You can end up with a completely interesting, unique geopolitical situation. So, like I said, both of those games, very high on my list. I'm eagerly anticipating both Orange Swan and Conquest and Consequence. The only other game that I'm kind of really champing at the bit over would be Absolute War. And I admit, one thing I forgot to mention a little bit ago with Absolute War is I actually, when I was looking at the final map art, I found it very, what's the word I want? Interesting, gratifying maybe even, as a person of partly Polish descent, that there actually is a spot on the map that marks the Katyn massacre. You don't usually see that in East Front games. So, you know, I gotta admit, that's appealing to me personally. So, anyway. So there you go. Those are my most anticipated war games for 2021. Most of them should be out before the end of the year. Actually, quite a few of them. I shouldn't say quite a few, but it looks like at least a couple of them should be out by the end of summer. Like I said, Orange Swan is going to be doing Kickstarter before too long. Conquest and Consequence is supposed to be going to the printer here in May for GMT. Absolute War is supposed to be rolling out a little bit later. I asked Carl on the Board Game Geek thread, and he was guessing maybe July, but more than likely August. But still, I mean, you know, could still, 80th anniversary of the Kiev pocket coming up, right? So you could go ahead with that. So, and then Tarawa has been pushed back a little bit too because of some things that Worthington has had going on, health reasons, I think, for one of the owners. as I recall. I saw somewhere. So, you know, things have been slid a little bit back. Race to Moscow is the one that's really been pushed back because that was supposed to be done, I want to say that was supposed to be shipped out last October, and now it may not even make this October. So, yeah. Whew, that's disappointing. But, you know, I mean, there's much worse things in this world. So, but, you know, one could always argue and say, yeah, you know what, there are worse problems, but my problems are my problems, so to speak. So, true, but I mean, in the grand scheme of things, you know, there's a lot of other things to prioritize rather than lamenting a game being pushed back. It can be frustrating, but yeah. So anyway, there you go. I'm just going to show you this in my atrocious handwriting real quick, just in case you want to see it there. Orange Swan, Race to Moscow, Absolute War, Enemy Action, Kharkov, Malta Besieged, Conquest and Consequence, and Tarawa 1943. So those are my most anticipated war games coming out this year. In the future, I'll be sharing some more about Orange Swan because, like I said, I've been playtesting this thing like a madman along with the other playtesters that have been working on it. And it's been a lot of fun. And I'm a little burned, to be honest, you know, but it's been fun. And I've enjoyed it. So I'm glad I got the chance to play test it because I've really had a lot of fun with it, trying out different strategies and such. Alright, next episode, hopefully I'll be sharing a little bit more of Orange Swan with you, and eventually I'll do a Barbarossa 80th anniversary episode. So, as always, this is Tim Korchnoi from Bare Bones Wargaming, saying thanks for watching, and I'll see you again next time, much sooner than basically the month that lapsed between the last episode and this one. As always, thanks for watching, and I will see you next time. And I do appreciate you all watching. I just crossed 150,000 views total since I started this channel a little more than 3 years ago. So I'm humbled by the amount of views and interest. And I'm glad I've been able to help folks too with playthroughs and going over things. So again, as always, thanks for watching, and I'll see you again next time.